and welcome to RaceandRallyUK.tv. Today we're at Silverstone for the PMC Midland Porsche Trophy races, supporting the Britcar 24 Hour. This weekend there'll be 3 races and an impressive combined grid of over 30 Porsches. Race 1 happened yesterday under some very wet conditions. Let's take a look at what happened.
It was very wet indeed for qualifying earlier on today, and it's still pouring with rain ahead of the start of this race for the PMC Midlands Trophy here on the Silverstone Bridge circuit, the track that was until last year used as the layout for the British Grand Prix itself. 2 grids of cars. The Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge cars will set off first. 30 seconds later, the cars in the Porsche Club Championship. The red lights now go on as we're on board with Leighton Clark on pole position. They go out, the race gets underway, and Clark is going to be in the fortunate position of having a clear track ahead of him. There'll be lots of spray kicked up behind him, but Clark stands at least a fighting chance of seeing where he's going. He turns into Copse in the lead then, ahead of number 19, Gary Marsh.
And then it looks like it might be Tim Speed who's made the jump up into 3rd place. We're on board with Bertie Carruthers. He started down on row 4 as he makes his way in towards Maggots and Beckett's for the first time. But there is Leighton Clark then. He's got the jump out of the front. Indeed, it is Tim Speed who's come from 5th on the grid up to 3rd as the Porsche Club Championship cars get away. And it's Mark Sumpter who takes the lead. It's going to be Kevin Harrison in the 64 car. Looks like he's going to be holding on to 2nd position as they dive into the right-hander at Copse. And it's Adam Dawson currently in 3rd place as they make their way down towards Maggots and Beckett's.
But the leaders in the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge heading already towards Stowe Corner for the first time, and it's Leighton Clark already putting some daylight, if that's the right word, between himself and the 2nd place car then, which is Gary Marsh. It's Tim Speed then in the number 21 car up into 3rd position. They round Stowe Corner now, they drop down the hill towards the left-hander at the Vale, and they're using the Grand Prix version of this corner this weekend, not the historic version which cuts through there, as you can just see. And then they head to this double apex right-hander as it is now at Club Corner before bringing them on to what will be the start and finish straight with the British Grand Prix of 2011.
So the top 3 have made a bit of a breakaway. Here come the Club Championship cars. There's a lot of standing water. You can see it there heading down the Hangar Straight. It looks like we're having a move being made further back. I think that might be Scott Kavanagh making his way up the inside in the 81 machine as they dive into the right-hander, making his way past that number 2 car of Richard Lambert as they come into Stowe Corner, and he's got Paul Follett right up behind him as well. So Lambert going a little bit backwards on this opening lap. Follett's going to have a look at him down into the Vale, I would have thought.
And as we go back now to the overall race leader then, Leighton Clark already coming up towards the end of the lap. The former Sachs Max racer had, I think, just the 1 win in Sachs Max, who's also raced in the Sport Max Challenge as well. But here he is in the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge, and possibly this is the kind of career direction that he wants to take in future. This effectively a proving ground, a junior version of the main Porsche Carrera Cup that we see supporting the British Touring Car Championship, of course. And now he's heading down towards Copse Corner for the 2nd time. 120 miles an hour he touched there, but look how much he was easing off as he went into Copse Corner, more than he usually would have done, I think, Jack.
Well, absolutely, because these conditions are absolutely horrendous. Look how hard Kevin Harrison's windscreen wipers are having to work as he follows Mark Sumpter into the left-hander at Priory. He's closed in quite a bit under braking. We can see him with his steering inputs in the caption in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, and it all looks fairly smooth as he makes his way now towards Luffield. He's right up behind Sumpter.
It wasn't smooth at all for Sumpter though, was it? He got a big twitch on there on the way up to the left-hander at Brooklands, and that means that Harrison has been able to narrow the gap now as they head around Luffield and towards Woodcote Corner for the first time in this race. And notable that I think about the first 5 or 6 cars in this in the race at this point are the rear engine cars, the 911 derivatives, and they always go much better off the start line and in the earlier part of the race. But we'll see as the race goes on, probably the front engine cars will come back into contention a little bit more. In a straight line, it seems to me, Sumpter able to pull away from Kevin Harrison.
Yeah, Harrison going offline a little bit, perhaps to try and cool his tyres, but I doubt they're going to be overheating. It's really interesting to see with the front engine cars today, because if the more weight you've got in the front, the happier the rear is going to be to slide, and in these damp conditions that can be very tricky to control. But Harrison still is going to be hitting 100 miles an hour before he turns into the left-hander at Maggots. They're starting to drop Adam Dawson fairly comfortably as Sumpter makes his way through the right-left Maggots and Beckett's complex.
Yeah, so Sumpter, who raced this car for the first time back in 1994, he's been reunited with it for this season, and he's done the majority of the rounds in the Porsche Club Championship, chased as he is there by Harrison, but the rest of the field really fairly spread out at this point, Jack, but that's no surprise given the conditions.
No, absolutely. They're very, very treacherous out there, as Richard Lambert has just found out. Facing backwards down the Hanger Straight, Paul Follett has dived off in avoidance, and fortunately I think Lambert is now facing the right way again, so no contact with the barriers or any other cars, but a scary, scary moment for Richard Lambert through, because Chapel is usually an easily flat out corner. But here's our battle now for third place. Challenge on Mike Johnson, trying to get up the inside of Tim Speed through Luffield, and I think he's done it.
Absolutely. Now Mike Johnson in the yellow car there, he's in the invitation class this weekend within the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge, helping to bolster the grids, but it's comparable machinery, the type of which we would have seen in the Porsche Open Series previously. There's our second place man, Gary Marsh. Third place now with headlamps ablaze, Mike Johnson. And fourth place now is Tim Speed, who's sharing that car this weekend with Paul Winter. We'll see him out in the races tomorrow on Saturday. Turning his way through Copse Corner now, disappearing off into the spray, but Leighton Clark, well, look at the gap he's got. At the end of 2 laps of racing, he was already more than 9 seconds clear, Jack.
Yeah, it's a very impressive drive from Leighton Clark in such treacherous conditions, and well, Mike Johnson now is starting to pick up the pace, isn't he? He fell back off the start. He was third on the grid, but he's now third in a race once again, but he's really closing in on Gary Marsh up in front of him by the looks of things. And here's a lunge from Paul Follett, trying to make his way past Richard Bennett as they come into Priory. Bennett's all out of shape, and we've got a spin there as well from Miles Maserati.
Yeah, Maserati there rejoining the circuit, but he's lost a little bit of ground because of all of that. Look how quickly he's got his windscreen wipers working so he can see away clear. But here are the 2 leaders as far as the Porsche Club Championship is concerned. It's Mark Sumpter and Kevin Harrison, with still very little to choose between them. Harrison accelerating then as they go past the pit lane exit towards Maggots once more. The rain lights shining brightly on the rear of Mark Sumpter's car. Then they'll go through this left-hand kink at Maggots. On the brakes now for the right-hander at Beckett's. Then this set of sweeping left and right-handers, but they're not taking these nearly as quickly as they would be in the dry.
No, you could see on board with Kevin Harrison there that as soon as he was behind Mark Sumpter, visibility just became absolutely zero as he splashes through a few puddles on the right-hander as they exit now out onto Chapel, using a slightly less angled Chapel this weekend. But we're on board with Harrison now. He's not going to try and get in the slipstream with Mark Sumpter, which would be the usual course of action. He's just going to want to be able to see, so he pulls to the right-hand side of the Hanger Straight to try and get some decent visibility. But if you didn't know he was there, you wouldn't be able to tell Mark Sumpter was up in front.
Now here's Richard Lambert. He's trying to make a recovery from his spin, and there's Paul Follett as well. He was the driver that went off in avoidance there, both behind the number 10 car there, which is Richard Ellis. Richard Ellis in the Porsche 993 C2. He started 2 rows on the back of the grid, so he's made some reasonable progress during the course of this race, you would think. And there's the 99 car of Marcus Carneal. He's the championship contender along with Chris Dyer, and who's that off there, number 22?
Kieran Brewer, very, very sideways on the way into Stowe Corner. That's going to lose him a position or two, or only one in fact, so a big moment. Very impressive that he managed to hold it, but Leighton Clark really in a class of his own as he comes down into Stowe Corner. That was close, wasn't it? That's the speed differential, Ian.
It certainly emphasises that, doesn't it? Absolutely phenomenal qualifying this morning. Leighton Clark did a 2 minutes 18. The slowest of the qualifiers did a 3 minute 35, and that's a big difference. A lot of difference in the capability of the cars out there, because we have the GT3 Cup Challenge and the Porsche Club Championship cars sharing the grid, which they don't normally do, but also some of the drivers will find these conditions much more difficult to adapt to.
Here's Sumpter then, currently leading the Porsche Club Championship section of this race. Where is Kevin Harrison? Not too far behind, possibly 5 or 6 car lengths as they come into Luffield Corner. Certainly Harrison has been closer in the past as they make their way past some lap traffic back there. We go on board with Harrison now on the exit of Luffield, and in fact he has dropped away quite considerably from the last time we were watching this battle, hitting 50 miles an hour on the exit of Luffield, and even in a straight line he's probably going to have to be struggling as slicing through the back markers comes race leader Leighton Clark.
Absolutely, Richard Ellis was one of those cars, and these cars not necessarily really back markers. They're doing reasonably well within the Porsche Club Championship part of the race, but Leighton Clark so much quicker, of course, does come from a Porsche racing background. As we say, making his debut in the GT3 Cup Challenge this weekend. He picks off Kieran Brewer, who had that spin a few moments ago. Another of the front engine cars is dismissed as well as Leighton Clark comes through to complete another lap. You can see how the rain just streaming over his windscreen there. There's Carneal again, as I was saying. He's doing battle as far as the championship is concerned, for the club championship, with Chris Dyer in Class 2. There's only 2 points separating them coming into this weekend.
Well, that showed you the superior grip there, didn't it? Leighton Clark able to drive around the outside of 2 Porsche Club Championship cars back there at Copse Corner. We're on board with Bertie Carruthers then as he exits Priory, the man from Torquay, who's competed in, I think, every round so far this season in this new GT3 Cup Challenge. He's going around the outside in the number 7 car of some of the slower Porsche Club Championship cars, but Bertie Carruthers is out there and he's a front runner for the championship too.
Well, it's not a championship, of course, for the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge, but there is an award for the Driver of the Year, and Carruthers and Peter Smallwood are the 2 drivers in very close contention for that, with just a few races remaining, 3 of them here this weekend, of course. Now that's Mark Chilton just disappearing off into the spray. We normally see that car out in the Euro Cylinder Sports Car Championship.
Into the left-hander at Brooklands comes Kieran Brewer once more, again challenging Richard Bennett around the outside. That's going to be a bit of a brave move. These 4 fairly close together. We're still getting some great racing, even though the conditions are pretty challenging, as Kieran Brewer has a look up the inside.
It's a bow wave, isn't it, coming off the number 72 car there with Richard Bennett. Huge amounts of spray, and you have to wonder if these conditions are really safe for racing.
Here's Mark Sumpter then, Porsche Club Championship leader, about to be lapped by the overall race leader Leighton Clark by the looks of things. Out towards Chapel they will come. Sumpter, of course, won't put up a fight, and even if he did put up a fight, it would be fairly fruitless, I'd imagine, as we go on board with Harrison a little further back, and he's very, very sideways indeed. He's got wheels on the grass now, and that is his challenge for the Porsche Club Championship victory in this race, all but over, I'd imagine.
And off goes the leader as well. Mark Sumpter spins down towards Stowe Corner on the brakes. Obviously found something a little bit too slippery to contend with. He's gone off into the gravel, but he's done very well there, and he's managed to get through it, as you might expect in a rear-engined, rear-wheel drive car. He is able to power through the gravel.
Yeah, big moment there for Mark Sumpter. So first and second in the Porsche Club Championship, having little spins almost at exactly the same point in the circuit. Here's Mark Chilton again, sweeping his way through some of the back markers into the right-hander now. It looks like that is the number 10 car, isn't it, that we saw earlier of Richard Ellis getting some laps put on him.
Almost looked like the rain was blowing across the circuit in waves there as well on that shot. It's not nice out there at all. But here, for the final time into the complex, comes young Leighton Clark. Still, I think, a teenager, not that long since he was racing in the Sax Max Championship. He turns his way now through the double apex right-hander at Luffield, and then it's towards Woodcote Corner for the final time. And yes, it does look like the check flag is being made ready. It's a little bit early, but that's probably a good thing given these conditions. So out of Woodcote he'll come. He will be in sight of the finish line now, but look how he's having to battle to keep control of the car in a straight line, such is the difficulty of the conditions.
But a very commanding victory in the end for Leighton Clark. Mike Johnson's going to come across the line 30 or 40 seconds further back. Here he is. He's only just coming out of Brooklands Corner through Luffield for the final time. So Johnson has got past Gary Marsh. There's Gary Marsh in the 19 car. So Johnson it is who is going to take that second place, and scrap still to be settled further back. Peter Morris sending one up the inside of Scott Kavanagh as they come through Woodcote for the final time. That's going to be a drag race to the line. Looks like Peter Morris could just about hold on, but there's second place man Mike Johnson in the invitation class coming across the line.
Yes, Mark Sumpter has already gone across the line then to win the Porsche Club Championship, but second there does go the way of Peter Morris, but only just from Scott Kavanagh in the end. So Peter Morris doing very well to get a front engine car up into P2, and problems there, and that is the man who was in 4th position. Adam Dawson has gone over the line just, and then he promptly goes and spins it. That's the driver, as we've said, that only made his debut earlier this year. Probably the worst conditions he's had to contend with, I should think.
Yeah, absolutely. Still to come across the line is Kevin Harrison. Well, is he going to make it across the line? He's completely lost it. Coming into the Abbey chicane, he's going to spin back across the cars, and fortunately doesn't get it collected, but that's going to send him right down towards the back of the order, I'd imagine.
And yes, Kevin Harrison was indeed the final classified finisher. One man to DNF, that was Mark McAleer, with the race ended a little bit early, of course, because of the conditions. Leighton Clark took the win there by more than half a minute from Mike Johnson, Gary Marsh 3rd, and Tim Speed in 4th position. Further back, you can see in 11th position overall, Mark Sumpter giving a victory to his car that he raced 16 years ago, once again in the Porsche Club Championship. Peter Morris 2nd, Scott Kavanagh 3rd, Marcus Carneal in the championship battle only 5th. That could be crucial as well, because Chris Dyer 2nd within Class 2, behind Richard Bennett in the Porsche 944.